It could be said that our success and fate will largely be determined by how well we manage our customer relationships. So how can we get better at this? Stay tuned and I'll share some ideas that worked for us.
Running a service business can be hard. It is not unusual for business owners in industries like contracting, home repair, auto repair, business-to-business services like janitorial, IT and accounting, and many others to feel overwhelmed by all the priorities facing them at any given time. Between addressing the needs of the customers, managing the employees, figuring out the financials, and getting processes in place, feeling like you're making significant progress on your business journey can be difficult. Welcome to Service Industry Success, hosted by Brian Harding. Each week, Brian will look at real-world strategies for building the business you are dreaming of, while also sharing tactics to get through some of the most frustrating parts of business ownership with a lot more ease. Let's get started.
How did we get to the point where we were the bar that all of our customers measured their suppliers, not just our competitors, but all suppliers against? We literally became the measurement of success that our customers measured all of their suppliers against. How do we do that? Well, in the beginning, like all new businesses, we focused on price and quality. Within a year, we identified who we served best. We learned what they really cared about, wanted, worried about, and dreamed of. And what we learned was they expected us to provide our service well and accepted nobody is perfect. So they kind of had what we learned is they kind of had the perspective of, you say you're an HVAC company, we more or less take for granted that you know how to do HVAC stuff. Say you're an accounting firm, we more or less are going to believe that you're going to do a reasonably good job at accounting. Now, that doesn't mean you can't blow that, and you absolutely can. And I would say with a fair degree of certainty, I'm sure we did at times. I don't have any notion that we were perfect as far as how well we provided the service we provided. I'm sure we blew that. But what we've learned is after talking to our clients and really getting to know them and understand them and truly come to know what they cared about, their number one concern wasn't that we wouldn't fix the thing right. The number one concern wasn't that we didn't build the right widget. And we also learned they accepted, in our case, nobody's perfect. Mistakes are going to happen. They expected that we would fix the widget well enough, though, that wasn't the primary concern. So don't get me wrong. If the widget wasn't fixed correctly and we didn't stand by our work, there would have been big problems. But us failing to fix the widget or stand by our work wasn't how they primarily made buying decisions. That wasn't why they chose us over brand X. So again, to be crystal clear here, I know the quality of the service we provide really matters. And simultaneously, I don't think that's what people really worry about when they make buying decisions. So what makes a good relationship? We're talking about how we manage customer relationships. What is a key component of a good relationship in any relationship? What's the most important relationship between a parent and a child? What's the most important part of a good relationship between a married couple or partners? What is one of the most important components of a quote unquote good relationship between a teacher and a student? Like any of these examples, the answer almost always is trust. So how do we gain trust? I believe we gained trust from our customers. We became the measurement of all their suppliers by learning to understand what they want and consistently providing that. Just like we would in a good marriage, just like we would in a good partnership, just like we would in a good student and teacher relationship. Any kind of relationship, if you want to gain trust, you got to understand what the other person wants and consistently provide that. Bottom line, if we have that, we're going to make great strides toward having a great relationship. If we don't have that, we could do lots of other things really well that they don't really value, and it just doesn't matter because they don't value it, right? So we developed a reputation of serving our clients better than anyone in our geographic area and industry because we knew what they wanted and truly cared about. If we continued focusing on quality and price, we would have completely missed the boat. And I know when I talk about this, there's always people who say, yeah, but you don't understand. Our industry is a little different. And as I dive into these other situations, I find out that no, it's really not. Unless you're selling a Rolex and you have a product-based business where is the iPhone better than the Android? Maybe it's different in that world. I don't work in that world. I work with people who provide a service, right? So in service-based businesses, whether it's accounting, IT services, marketing, medical stuff, home repair stuff, auto repair stuff, your landscaper, like unless they prove us wrong, we tend to believe out of the gate that they know what they're doing as far as their technical craft. But we don't take for granted that they know how to serve us in the other things that we really care about. So in order to address the things that really matter to our customers, we first must really know what matters to our customers. There's no way we could have managed or improved our relationships with our clients if we didn't really understand what they wanted. And I think that's universal. There's really no way we can manage or improve what we don't understand. We almost always overestimate how much our customers worry about how well we fix the widget or perform our service. Understanding how much we should build our processes and actions to address technical concerns versus more abstract experiential concerns, I think is absolutely critical. You can manage a relationship with a customer way better when you know what they're really thinking, feeling, and doing, and what you want them thinking, feeling, and doing when you're done, or you've been working with them a year, or whatever that kind of finish line is for you in your industry. So if you have a repetitive business like accounting and bookkeeping, you might say, listen, after 6 months, we want them to have this level of confidence in us. And here's how we explain that. We want them thinking, feeling, doing these things. In the beginning, we know they're apprehensive about this. So let's just take accounting, for example. Most accounting firms don't have a bad reputation because they do the accounting wrong. I don't even know of, there's a handful of instances I'm 50 years old now. And so in 35 years, I've been aware of tax returns. I can think of a handful of instances where people have complained about the accounting firm doing the tax return wrong. So again, it's a thing that we have to worry about, have to have a good product. But I've probably at this point in my life heard dozens or hundreds of people say they've had to fire their accounting firm because they just didn't get it. They gave them information they didn't know what to do with. They didn't really understand them, and they didn't understand what they really needed and wanted. I've heard that a lot. And I've only heard a handful of times that the tax return was done wrong. I've heard, again, speaking in more repetitive relationship stuff like business to business sales, tons of contractors get fired. Rarely, though, is because the nails didn't go in right, or the plumbing wasn't put in right, or the electrical wiring wasn't done right. Those are not the reasons contractors get fired in B2B stuff most of the time. It's the other stuff. And so knowing the other stuff, that's where we can build a relationship. If all we focus on technical stuff or in the relationship is the technical stuff, like now it's a commodity. Now it's just whoever's cheaper and faster. And that's not a relationship. So if I want a relationship, I have to focus on the things that relationships are built on, which is not how well and how fast and how cheap we fix the widget, right? So how do we find out what our customers really care about? We have to work very hard to remove ourselves from the equation because we have a bias. We all are prone to thinking, yeah, but in my case, it's different. In my case, they really do care about the widget. And if you take yourself out of the situation and say, okay, well, let's say you were going to get your transmission fixed in your car. How much would you worry about how well they fix the transmission? Well, I how would I even know? You can't see the transmission. I just have to assume that they're going to do it right. And if it breaks on the side of the road, I'll know they did it wrong. Short of that, how are you going to know? So the entire criteria you're measuring for a good experience with a transmission shop has very little to do with how the transmission is fixed, unless you actually find yourself broke down the side of the road. So again, it's my old example. Your driver's license is expired. You gotta get a new one. You can absolutely go get a new driver's license and have a horrible experience, but you cannot have a good experience if you don't get the driver's license renewed. And I believe that's true for almost all of us. So I think it's helpful for us to try as much as we can to remove ourselves from the equation. So if possible, I'd want to say, what would my customer think about buying a different product or service than ours? What would they care about then? That was very helpful for us in coming to learn this stuff about what people were cared about. It's like, take our industry out of it. What's a similar industry? What would they care about then? And we learned a tremendous amount by doing that. And we have to pay attention and be willing to ask questions. So part of it was just we put ourselves in their shoes. Like, what do we think they would care about in buying a different service than ours? And then we were willing to ask questions. And what I did was I found a client that we really worked well with who was in a particular industry. And I walked in her office and I said, what do we do well? What do we not do well? And she was pretty happy with what we were doing. And I said, fantastic. How do we find more people like you? And I began building our processes around serving that client. And I built a relationship with her. I'd go back and ask regularly, like, what are the kinds of things you really care about? Again, I just stopped talking. Like, what do you really care about? Silence. And I let her answer. And what I learned when I asked her that was not one time did she mention the industry we're in. Not one time did she mention our service. What she said was, I don't like looking stupid because I don't know what's going on. So, what's that tell us? We got to communicate well. So, we built our processes where we had 5 points of communication on every invoice, basically, every job had 5 points of communication built in. And we wouldn't have done that otherwise. Yeah, had I not known, and I wouldn't have asked. Or had I not known, we wouldn't have done that. We would have focused on price and quality. You would have said, how great is the widget? I mean, like, here's a picture of how great the widget is we fixed. And she wouldn't have cared. And so a way to ask this is just like, I walk in and I say, we're trying to get better. I'm a business owner. I never said I was a business owner. I take that back. I would walk in and say, I want with XYZ company. I'm here because I like working. We like working with you. You're a client we would like more of, and I just want to get better. So what do you really care about? What do you worry about? What do you wish for? And I let her answer. And she was not shy. And I have found over doing this over the course of time with my own company and other people in their companies, if we frame it like, hey, I'm just trying to get better. I like working with you. You're like, if we had 10 more customers like you or 1,000 more customers like you, man, my life would be great. Butter them up a little bit. And then what do you really care about? What do you really worry about? What do you really wish for? What disappoints you? What angers you? That kind of stuff. And I let him answer, right? So I think we just can't allow ourselves to assess what our customers really care about through the lens of the expert service provider, because we're going to lean towards the service we provide, and the quality of the technical work is going to be the paramount thing. And if I'm in that boat again, I don't know how we build relationships on that, because other than becoming known as the guy who can fix the widget well, if I fix the widget well and don't address the other things she told me, like I don't like looking stupid when I don't know what's going on, I promise you that was a way bigger concern for her than, well, you guys better fix the thing, right? Because she knew, I mean, like, the percentage of companies who are not going to stand by their work and do a reasonably good job is pretty low. Are they out there? 100%. But I think we have to be open and objective, right? We have to be willing to learn in many cases that the service we provide isn't something they're excited about. Our industry was not one people were excited about. I promise you. Nobody woke up in the morning and went, gosh, I hope I can call those guys. It was not, it's not like that at all. Some of us are in industries that are associated much more with like a utility than an experience. Like, it's much more like paying the cable bill. Like, I have to do this thing, or my kitchen sink backed up. Well, I have to get that done. That's not on the same level as I get to take my kids to an amusement park. That's an experience. This utility thing broke and now I got to fix it. And many of us, like accounting and home services and stuff like that, are much more on the utility side than the experience side, even if we're in things like medical. Like, my joint is uncomfortable. I'm having back pain, or I'm having whatever. Like, yeah, it's a nuisance to go deal with this. It's not like I'm going to an amusement park. And we have to understand for our customers how they view that. And we understand, like, on that linear scale of utility at one end and experience on the other, where do they see us? And that will tell us often how much we can pay attention to the service we provide versus the experience, right? The overall experience that we're trying to offer. What do we want them thinking, feeling, and doing when we're done? That's not related to the technical work. It tells us how much we need to pay attention to that. And resisting the truth and trying to force the customer to care about what we want them to care about, like our quality, which, by the way, the reason I care about our quality is because it highlights me and my expertise. I get a good reputation if I'm the guy who has the best quality. So that becomes about me. Trying to force the customer to care about what we want them to is the quickest way, in my opinion, to improperly manage the relationship. Trying to get them to change the criteria that they value to suit my needs is, I think, the absolute wrong way to do this. And I have experience to prove it. When we tried doing that for years, our business suffered and we did not grow. We changed how we looked at that. We took off like a rocket ship. I mean, the mathematical numbers are stark. And I can tell you the year and the month it happened. And I can show you on a chart the difference in our growth and the difference in what we were spending on marketing and things like that. So we got to provide what they need, but focus on giving them what they want. which is not always top of mind for them. Sometimes we're going to ask customers what they really care about and how they make decisions, and they don't know. And so they're going to say things like price because they don't know. And so over time, we have to really pay attention to things like, what do they rave about? What do they complain about? What makes them uncomfortable? What scares them? What embarrasses them? These are the things that as we discover them, they may not come out and tell us this stuff. But when these things become noticeable to us, I think we really got to pay attention, because these are the things I think tell us all the things we need to know to really properly manage and develop and grow and improve our relationships with our customers, is by really knowing what pisses them off, what excites them, what scares them, and really what embarrasses them. That's a huge one, I think. And understanding the conflict, the conflict of, I want to buy this thing, but what's the but? If I know the but, holy smokes, I can have a different conversation than if I don't, right? If they complain about us being late all the time, but we disregard that because we're quote unquote doing the best we can, while reminding ourselves how much, it just, like imagine a situation where a customer calls to complain because they really care about that. And the provider saying, listen, we're doing the best we can. It takes time to provide the top notch quality we provide. And they try to convince the customer to change their criteria. I think that's the wrong way to do it. We're missing the message. We're stepping over the thing that they're telling us that they care about to try to wedge in the thing we want them to care about. And I think that's absolutely the wrong way to do this. So another thing to look at, besides when we notice these things, is what are the 1 and 5 star reviews complaining or raving about? I think this tells us volumes, and it doesn't have to be our reviews. We can read competitors' reviews. We can read reviews in our same industry in a different city. I think that we learn a lot there. I don't think 1 and 5 star reviews are generally written about how great the quality of the widget fixing is. The 1 and 5 star reviews are because people went way above and beyond. And what are the things that they cared that they went way above and beyond on? And the 1 star reviews are things that they shorted on those things. What are the things that they're pissed about that got shorted that aren't really about how well the widget was fixed? So I think we got to stop also comparing ourselves to the worst in our industry and start comparing ourselves to the best. So one of the things that we do is we say, well, we want to provide top-notch quality, and that's our thing, because we don't want to be like brand X, who's has in the industry known for doing a crummy job. I don't think that serves us. I don't think it serves us to say we want to focus on how well the widget is fixed because we don't want to be like the worst in our industry. I think we need to learn what the customer really cares about, find out who's kicking butt at that, and beat them. That would be the way I would want to approach this, to really manage, improve, develop, and enhance those relationships. Is figure out what they really care about. That is, and oftentimes that is not about the widget fixing, and speak to those things. Put our process in place to address those things, and we have conversations with them. Talk about those things. I know you care about not looking stupid, so that's why we do this. That builds a relationship. That improves a relationship. That is how we get them to be our best outside salespeople, is talking to them about the things that they already have told us or we've learned that they care about, rather than trying to get them to place a higher priority in the things we wish they would care about. So I can just tell you from my experience, this was an absolute binary night and day difference in the performance of our company. We were trying to convince people to care about the thing we wanted them to care about, i.e. quality. It didn't land. We shifted to learning what they cared about and speaking to that. Our customers became our best outside salespeople. And I'm not exaggerating with that. I've shared stories on here before. Real quickly, one time I was at an industry association meeting for our customers, not my industry, for their industry, and a competitor sent a salesperson in, and the person sitting next to me nudged my shoulder and said, "She doesn't have a clue, does she?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And she was referring to the salesperson for our competitor, who was a woman who walked in the door. I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "She doesn't have a chance in here," and it blew me away. Like, a customer to say, this other company, your competitor, walked in the door and they don't even have a chance and they don't even know it. The reason for that was because I knew that person sitting next to me, I knew what she really cared about, which had nothing, or, again, if you find yourself with a transmission broke down on the side of the road, you care a lot then. Barring that, that's not what she cared about. She cared about a whole list of other things that didn't have to do with the technical work we did. And that was why we had a relationship that was impenetrable. So I hope that's helpful. I know this is not fun stuff. It's hard work, but I promise you it pays off. All right. If you find the information I share helpful, Please share this podcast with a friend or colleague you think could benefit from it. Of course, public sharing is also appreciated. That's it for this week. I'll see you all next week.